Breaking news tonight. A desperate 911 call from a terrified mother, a baby ripped from her arms in broad daylight, and a father whose cold, measured words have left the public asking, what is he hiding? 7-month-old Emmanuel Haro vanished without a trace in Riverside County. No stroller left behind, no blanket, no baby shoes. Just silence, confusion, and a mystery that has haunted investigators from the very first hour. On one side, a mother in tears, claiming she was attacked in a shopping center parking lot by a hooded stranger. On the other, a father who speaks of his missing child without the visible grief you'd expect. His calm demeanor, chilling to some, suspicious to others, has only fueled speculation. And tonight, we dig deeper into the case that has split a community, sparked outrage across social media, and left one haunting question echoing through Riverside County: where is baby Emmanuel? It all began on the quiet morning of August 14th. At exactly 9:17 a.m., a frantic 911 call came into Riverside County Dispatch. On the line was Rebecca Haro, sobbing, gasping for air between words. She told the operator she had been attacked in the parking lot of a Yucaipa shopping center. A man, she claimed, had come out of nowhere, wearing a hoodie, his face partially covered. According to Rebecca, he yanked her infant son, 6-month-old Emmanuel, straight out of her arms and ran. Her exact words, "He ripped my baby out of my hands. He was wearing a hoodie. He ran. Please, please help me." Police raced to the scene within minutes. Officers fanned out through the parking lot, searching for any sign of the alleged kidnapper. But what they found was unsettling. There was no attacker, no witnesses. Not a single shopper who had seen a man sprinting away with a baby in broad daylight. No dropped blanket, no baby bottle, no stroller tipped over in the struggle. Only Rebecca, shaken, trembling, her arms showing scratches she claimed came from the assault. Investigators tried to calm her as she repeated her story again and again, but something wasn't adding up. For an abduction so sudden, so violent, why had no one else seen or heard a thing? What began as a desperate rescue mission was already showing cracks in its foundation. Within hours of the 911 call, attention shifted to the baby's father, Jake Haro. Police questioned him briefly, then he stepped in front of cameras, facing a community desperate for answers. Everyone expected raw emotion, tears, anger, a father pleading with the public to help bring his child home. Instead, what they saw was unsettling. Jake appeared calm, almost too calm. His voice was even, his expression flat. Reporters fired questions at him, their microphones practically touching his face. One asked, "What do you want most right now?" Jake's answer was short, "I just want my baby back." But his delivery carried none of the desperation you'd expect from a parent whose 7-month-old had just vanished. No trembling lips, no breaking voice, no tears, just a steady, almost rehearsed response. The public took notice. On social media, clips of the interview spread quickly. Some viewers said they felt chills watching him. Others compared his demeanor to parents in past high-profile cases who later turned out to be guilty. Psychologists weighed in as well. One expert explained his affect was flat, detached, almost mechanical. That's not how a typical grieving father presents. It doesn't prove guilt, but it raises serious questions. Neighbors who knew Jake described him as private, sometimes quick-tempered, but never openly emotional. So, was this a man frozen in shock, struggling to process unthinkable loss, or was it the cool composure of someone hiding what he already knew? That question became the turning point of the investigation. And from this moment forward, Jake Haro was no longer just the grieving father. He was also a person of interest. As the hours turned into days, investigators began peeling back the layers of the Haro family's past, and what they uncovered was deeply troubling. Court documents revealed that Jake Haro had a prior conviction for child abuse. It was the kind of revelation that sent shockwaves through the community. How could a man with that history still be granted visitation rights with a newborn? Critics pointed fingers at the family court system, saying it had failed baby Emmanuel before he was even born. Neighbors then began to speak up, adding to the growing suspicion. One neighbor reported seeing Jake's truck parked near a wooded area just outside town on the very morning Emmanuel vanished. The timing was suspicious, too close to ignore. Another neighbor recalled Jake making what they described as odd, unnecessary trips around the neighborhood, movements that didn't align with the story he had given police about his whereabouts that day. Meanwhile, search teams combed through fields, creeks, and wooded terrain. Helicopters circled overhead, K-9 units scoured the ground, volunteers handed out flyers. And yet, despite all the manpower, nothing was found. No clothing, no baby blanket. Not a single trace of Emmanuel. The silence was deafening. Investigators began to wonder, had they been looking in the wrong place all along? And with every dead end, suspicion pointed back, again and again, to the one person whose story seemed full of holes, Jake Haro. For weeks, Riverside County became the epicenter of a desperate manhunt. Law enforcement launched one of the largest search efforts the area had seen in years. Deputies on horseback swept the trails, helicopters hovered low with thermal imaging, and K-9 units tracked scent trails that led to nowhere. Volunteers, neighbors, church groups, even complete strangers, joined the effort. They stapled flyers with Emmanuel's smiling face on every street corner, every gas station, every storefront. Candlelight vigils lit up the nights, the soft glow of candles contrasting sharply with the darkness of uncertainty. But as the days dragged on, hope slowly gave way to dread. Riverside County is not a gentle landscape. Its sprawling wilderness is home to rattlesnakes, coyotes, and steep, unforgiving terrain. Search experts admitted behind closed doors that if Emmanuel had been left exposed in that environment, the odds of survival were slim. And yet, something didn't fit. Despite the scale of the search, despite countless man-hours poured into combing every ditch, creek, and canyon, not a single piece of evidence was found. No baby blanket, no bottle, no article of clothing. It was as if Emmanuel had simply vanished into thin air. This absence of evidence gnawed at investigators. It suggested two grim possibilities. Either Emmanuel had been hidden far more carefully than they initially believed, or he had never been in those woods at all. Meanwhile, the family itself was unraveling. Rebecca and Jake appeared divided, their interviews painting two very different pictures of what happened that morning. The tension between them spilled into the public eye, deepening the mystery and amplifying the community's unease. A baby was gone. The county was on edge. And with every unanswered question, suspicion grew heavier. When Jake Haro was finally led into the Riverside County courtroom, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The case had already gripped the community for weeks, and now the public wanted answers. Every seat in the gallery was filled. Reporters lined the aisles, their cameras poised to capture every glance, every twitch, every word. Rebecca Haro, seated just a few feet away, couldn't contain her emotions. She wept openly, clutching a tissue, her shoulders trembling. Across the aisle, Jake sat like a statue, expressionless, his jaw tight, his eyes fixed forward. He spoke only in brief whispers to his defense attorneys, never once glancing at Rebecca. The silence was broken when prosecutors laid out their opening arguments. They painted Jake as a man with a violent history and a hidden temper, a father whose prior conviction for child abuse was not just a mistake from his past, but a pattern, one that may have ended in tragedy for baby Emmanuel. The defense countered quickly, casting doubt on Rebecca's story. They argued that her 911 call was riddled with inconsistencies, that her scratches were superficial and self-inflicted, and that her description of the alleged abductor was vague at best. One defense attorney went so far as to suggest Rebecca may have orchestrated the entire narrative to cover her own tracks. The courtroom became a battleground of words and emotions. At one point, Rebecca shook her head violently, whispering he did this through tears, while Jake sat unflinching, as if her pain wasn't meant for him. Observers noted the palpable hostility between them, the kind of raw, unfiltered animosity that told its own story, no matter what the attorneys argued. Still, despite the emotional testimony and fiery exchanges, the judge's ruling was firm. Speculation was not enough. The case needed hard evidence, something concrete to either prove or disprove what had happened to Emmanuel. Until then, the tension in that courtroom would remain unresolved, hanging in the air like a storm waiting to break. The disappearance of baby Emmanuel quickly outgrew Riverside County. Within days, the case spread across California, and soon the nation. Social media lit up, turning a local tragedy into a national conversation. Hashtags like #JusticeForEmmanuel, #WhereIsBabyHaro, and #BringEmmanuelHome began trending. Strangers thousands of miles away shared Emmanuel's photo, urging their followers to keep his face in the public eye. Candlelight vigils weren't just held in Riverside anymore. Churches and community groups across the state organized prayer circles, calling for Emmanuel's safe return. But the internet, as always, was divided. Some defended Jake, insisting the media had villainized him too quickly. They argued that his calm demeanor was being misread, that not every father grieves the same way, and that the justice system owed him the benefit of the doubt. Others turned their suspicions toward Rebecca. Online forums dissected her 911 call word for word, pointing out inconsistencies, questioning her injuries, and speculating whether her story had been fabricated. One viral thread bluntly asked, "If a man ripped your baby away, wouldn't anyone have seen it?" The debate spilled offline as well. Outside the courthouse, protesters held signs that read "Protect our children," alongside others demanding free Jake. The family itself became a mirror of the larger community, divided, conflicted, and searching for truth in a storm of rumors, emotions, and half-answers. In the court of public opinion, neither Rebecca nor Jake escaped scrutiny. Both parents were under a microscope, every gesture, every word dissected and replayed. And in the middle of it all was the heartbreaking reality: a baby still missing, and a community desperate for answers. The disappearance of baby Emmanuel Haro is more than a headline. It is a haunting reminder that when systems crack, when vigilance slips, it is the most vulnerable who pay the price. A mother's desperate 911 call, a father's unnerving silence, and a child just 6 months old, whose fate remains a mystery. Weeks of searches, countless prayers, and an endless speculation have not answered the single question that matters most: what really happened that morning in Yucaipa? This case forces us to confront unsettling truths about the holes in family court systems, about the way abuse histories are weighed or overlooked, about how quickly narratives are built, torn apart, and rebuilt in the court of public opinion. But beyond the legal battles, the rumors and the accusations lies something far simpler: a child who never had a voice, a baby whose story must not be forgotten. Because this is not just a story of crime, it is a story of loss, a reminder of how fragile life is, and how quickly innocence can be taken. As the candles burn low at vigils, and the hashtags fade from trending lists, one thing must remain: the demand for truth, for justice, and above all, for Emmanuel. So we leave you with this: stay engaged, keep asking questions, share Emmanuel's name and his story. Because until answers come, silence is not an option.